Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio. Today we welcome back Glynn Burrows, a family history expert, a tour guide and owner of Norfolk Tours in England. And today he is joining us to talk about ghostly stories and legends of England. And you know what, we always have fun with Glynn, but this is especially going to be fun. He's got a great article up on blendradioandtv.com, and also watch out for his story on this in our upcoming issue of Way Back When History Magazine. So again, all on blendradioandtv.com. But now is a good time to go to England. From what we've heard, for us Americans, it is a very cost-effective time to go. So check out norfolk-tours.co.uk. So Glynn, welcome back. How are you?
All good here, thanks. Yeah, excellent.
So I hear that it's not just a ghostly rumor, that now is a good time to start flying over.
Well, the more our Prime Minister keeps messing around with everything, that seems the better it is for you to come to England. Because I hear on the radio today that she's even sacked the Chancellor of the Exchequer again. So who knows what's going to happen?
Are we going to get into politics? We never do on the show, do we?
We can't talk about politics. No.
You sound like our country.
I know. I know. We should just, we should have TVs up on a wall with everybody doing their shenanigans. Because, I mean, right now in this country, it's getting really interesting. So, here it goes. But now your prime minister, isn't she from Norfolk, or am I getting the wrong person?
Well, she used to be an MP she still is an MP in Norfolk. She's not from Norfolk.
Now she's not. She used to be, but now she's not.
She never was. She never was. Don't start me on it, please.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to talk about headless horses. Okay.
Much more fun.
And Anne Boleyn, I know you bring up Anne Boleyn every chance you can.
Yes.
What is going on with Anne Boleyn? Tell us about her.
Anne Boleyn was born in Norfolk, according to all of the people I talked to, at Blittling Hall. So, I mean, if she's born in Norfolk, I've got to talk about her, because she's probably one of the most famous of Henry VIII's wives. I mean, she was the mother of Queen Elizabeth I. So, I mean, Anne Boleyn is a really fascinating woman from history. Yeah. And, the fact that Henry changed the course of English history by coming away from the Catholic Church, the fact that he beheaded his wives if he didn't like them very much, the fact that he was just such a, I don't know, strange man, I suppose you could say, to put it nicely, but when you've got someone like Anne Boleyn, you've got to bring her up in conversations, because she's such a person to talk about.
I agree. I mean, her history is huge, but like this execution thing, like, when we were in England, and I remember as a little kid going to the castles and going down under in the dungeons, like, no, like that. Now I'm going to do the Blickling Hall. No, I can't help it. But when you go under and you see like the execution, like when you put your head in and then they just chop it right off with your arms in there, and you have to lie. Like, okay, if you can't do push-ups, too bad. You're going to be in that position, and they chop your head off. I mean, I mean, who wants to do push-ups and then have to do that too? And so when it came to women, are we looking at those kind of guillotines, or were they dunking?
No, it was a big block of wood. And basically it was a big block of wood that you knelt behind, and it had a slight carved out piece at the front for your chin. So you basically just sort of put your chin down like that, and and the person just chopped your head off. It up. And they do say that when you were having your head chopped off, you would tip the executioner, so he would make a good clean cut. Because you don't want him partially missing and you don't want him to have 3 or 4 goes at it.
Oh my
So,
God, Glynn.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. This is what happened, and they say that you would tip the executioner, so he would just go, and that would be it. You know, you
And
don't.
you'd take whatever last money you had anyway, or give it to your family.
Exactly.
Or
It's no, it's no good
so
to you.
Anne Boleyn, where was she executed? Like where did that happen? And like
In the Tower of London.
Oh wow. So do they still have her execution block, or because that would be weird
There are blocks. There are blocks there. I don't know whether the one that she was executed on is still there. I mean, I've only been to the Tower of London once, so I don't know. But the interesting thing about her ghost is the fact that they do say that, you know, she's carrying a head under her arm, which is a bit classical, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, if I'm going to be haunting people, I don't want to have my head under my arm. You know, I want to be
no, but in a way that'd be kind of cool if you talked. Like,
oh
you know,
yeah,
you had Talking Heads, the band, you could start singing Psycho Killer.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, funnily enough, I've been talking about heads under your arm. There used to be a really good pub sign in King's Lynn, which was a man, you know, dressed up in medieval clothes, or Georgian. It might have been Georgian clothes on the last sign that I saw in King's Lynn, with his head under his arm, because that was the honest lawyer. And basically, they say that the only lawyer who's honest is the one who's dead.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Still talking.
You know, that was the classic for Anne Boleyn, was to have her head under her arm. You know.
Oh wow.
That's what they say.
And then, so she's supposed to arrive with her head in her lap at the house in a coach driven by the headless horseman.
Yeah, it's all headless. Everything's
I
headless.
know. So maybe she wanted to give her head to the guy who didn't have
No,
one.
this is where football was invented. You know, soccer.
No,
this is how soccer got started.
No, she wanted to give her head to somebody that she liked that didn't have one. So she's like carrying her head around and giving it to the headless horseman.
Well, who knows? I mean, if he was headless, how could he see where he was going? But
well,
you know,
maybe he was having an affair with her.
I wouldn't know. You know, and Anne Boleyn's father is supposed to also haunt the area, because you know he lived in the big house, and they say that because 2 of his daughters were executed, he is so unhappy that he has to ride around and cross 12 bridges in Norfolk before the cock crows in the morning, and in theory he is supposed to be driven by a team of horses that are headless. You know,
what?
Mad. But I mean, you know, whether that's what it is. I mean, we've all heard stories of spirits and things, and a lot of them are quite, as far as I'm concerned, quite believable. You know, so I think that a lot of these stories have been elaborated on,
and passed down.
It's obvious that Anne Boleyn lost her head, so therefore, that if she's going to come back and haunt somewhere, she's going to be headless. And then to make it even more frightening, the horseman who's riding the carriage or driving the carriage, he's going to be headless as well. And let's just make it completely mad, and the horses mightn't be headless as well. You know, so I think a lot of it is artist license, so to speak, or writer's license to make it all more scary. But I think a lot of these stories have probably got a basis in truth, because, you know, I think we all know somebody who we trust totally, who has had some strange experience that can't be explained. So I think a lot of these stories have got a base in fact, and then they've been elaborated upon to make them into a story that's going to be
it's more fun.
I remember a high school friend having his mother had an alien visit her. And no, like it's I can't stop. We've been watching The Vicar of Dibley and we keep going, no. So anybody, if you watch that, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But and she was just a regular, you know, mom at home. She just, kept the house and everything, and was a very, very South African normal, just took care of the house. Normal human being. Nothing out of I don't even think she had wine. I mean, nothing. And
maybe she should have.
he started telling me the story, and she's like, yep, this is what happened. She was doing the dishes, and all of a sudden, like, something just floated, and they're up. So it's like where the kitchen was looking out was a little higher. So this being, which was an alien, well, she says an alien, but it was like more of a human looking alien. So it could have been a spirit, floated up to the kitchen, waved, and then floated down, and done that like a few times. Like, would come and visit her whenever she was doing the dishes, would just
That sounds more
float
like
up.
a ghost.
Yeah, it does. But she said alien because of religious beliefs. I don't know. But it was Justin's mom. I don't remember if remember Justin, Nancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, his mom. And she was just the most normal, ordinary person that wouldn't make that kind of stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these stories are probably based on people having an experience, talking about it, and then it being elaborated and made to be even more scary than what actually happened. Talking about people, a very, very good friend of mine who's sadly no longer with us, she told me one day that she had died previously. And she said that she was in hospital, and she was taken into the emergency room. And she said the next thing she knew, she was floating above the emergency room, looking down on the doctors
Nancy's
and
had
nurses. And she said they were giving her CPR. And she said she floated up in the corner of the room, watching them do that. And then the next thing she knew, she was round again in the room. But she was a very sensible. In fact, she used to be a nurse. But she was a very sensible lady, and she said she floated up and watched them bring her back. So there has to be something that we don't understand. But some of the stories are really believable.
But I think when I was in a car accident, this guy made a left-hand turn, but went into the wrong lane and just smacked. And I was stopped at a red light. So, I wasn't even moving, and he just plowed right into me. And then somebody was riding down the street. I remember seeing him, and I remember that he was actually one of my students from where I was teaching music. And then the ambulance came, and they put us both, the car driver and myself, in the same ambulance, and I floated to the top, and I was looking down in the ambulance, and I could see him. And he said to the paramedic, he's like, how is that woman or whatever I hit? And he made me so mad I came back down. I'm not a whatever. No, he really did. He made me angry because he said that woman or whatever I hit. And I was up looking, and I came back down. I know it sounds really nuts, but that's what I remember.
Exactly.
But then I've been through a big trauma. So who knows what your brain does?
Who knows? But a lot of these stories, there was another one which I've written about, where a man who lived in another of our big houses in Norfolk, he collected books, and one of his friends, he was visiting one of his friends, and the friend's library started to burn down. He went into the library to try and rescue the books, and obviously he must have taken in some smoke or something. Anyway, he died rescuing these books, and they reckon that his ghost is still to be seen walking in his library at the big house, reading books that he didn't have time to read while he was alive. Now that seems quite feasible. Why wouldn't somebody who was mad on books, why wouldn't he haunt a library? That's the sort of place I would haunt.
Yeah, that would be cool. That is cool, actually, because you could go in, and when someone's reading a book, you could turn the page for them. That would be like, here, I move that for you. No, but I think, and that's was he part of Parliament or something? Because I was looking him up to see, and then I got all these. It's really difficult when we get a bunch of Williams.
William
William
Wyndham
the
the third. Yeah.
Was he part of Parliament or something? Or is that going to be a different one? Maybe.
I don't know. He probably was. I mean, he was a member of the landed gentry, and normally landed gentry were connected to the ruling classes. I haven't actually looked at William Wyndham the third in detail. All I know about him is the ghost story that's attached to him at his house. But
I wonder how many people get locked away for these stories, like kind of like, oh, you're nuts. We're putting you in the the cuckoo's nest.
Well, who knows? But I think in those days things like that were accepted much more than today. I mean, today we might think people are mad, but years ago, I think having a spiritual presence was more acceptable to people because I think they probably believed things more. So I think that people wouldn't be locked away for seeing ghosts.
There's an interview that's airing right after this airs with a musician, David Young, and we've talked about him because we've been holding on to this interview, but it's he is part of the NDI, I think, Near Death Association or Near Death, and so it's scientists who talk about that crossing period, like you're both talking about, people going up, and he's saying it's mostly medical people and nurses and doctors who are saving someone's life, who witness this, and then the patient will talk about it as they're coming out of an anesthesia. So there's all of this scientific evidence that all these stories can be true. There is evidence that it's not all like fanciful, but it is fanciful when you start talking headless horses. I think that's a little, that part, yes. But there are the science and the spiritual belief is bit by bit starting to unite, which I think is very exciting because I don't know. I want to talk to him. Like, I don't know, it's just like, I want to do radio shows with spirits. Could you imagine how cool?
I wish I could meet a ghost because I'd love to talk to them and ask them questions, but that doesn't seem as though that ever actually happens. It always seems all of the stories, they just seem as that they are on another plane.
They're on that side and we're here. And he says everyone goes to heaven. Absolutely everyone. And everyone we've talked to on these spiritual beliefs say, honestly, everyone just goes to heaven. There is no real hell. That's maybe that's here with politics. I don't, but politicians, but really that it seems, so when someone is back here, these ghosts and spirits, that they're here because they have unfinished stuff and they just haven't gone to the light yet. So I think it's, talk to them while you can, but they're not like coming from another plane to mess with you. That's not really their goal, know.
And there aren't actually that many ghost stories where people who see ghosts report bad things happening. Yes, you hear about poltergeists where they move things or they just change things around and that.
But that's cool.
You don't actually hear many stories where something nasty happens. And I think that is very reassuring because, I personally, what I believe in is obviously neither here nor there, but I believe that it is people who are not necessarily at rest, and they just keep doing the same thing over and over again until they can settle down. I don't know. I don't understand. But then again, all we have to think about is that a few years ago, a mobile phone was something that nobody believed could possibly exist.
Right.
So we don't know.
Yeah.
It's true. The more we learn, then, maybe 100 years from now, somebody's going to be, oh, look at all these ghosts, and they can actually talk to them, see them, record them, and know how to find them in a different dimension.
Yeah.
So to speak. Yeah.
Who knows?
Because maybe our sensitivities will change and our eyesight will change. And
one of the things that I read some years ago was something about the fact that we still don't understand time. So therefore, the same times, the same things could be happening in different time scales, and they could be all happening at the same time. So instead of these things being ghosts, they could just be somebody who is in the wrong time frame.
Exactly.
It's a bit like, say, for instance, if you're tuning in your radio and you get on the wrong station, you pick up another radio station. So is it an electrical force that just brings something from the past coming back to the present? Nobody really understands it. Nobody can tell me that's a load of complete and utter rubbish. And nobody can say that it's all the truth, because there is no proof. It's the same as UFOs. There is no proof for UFOs, but who's to say they don't exist?
That's limited thinking when you just say nothing exists, because that's fear of the unknown and being closed-minded, and that's normally fear. But I think you're really right about this time thing. We were talking about this on our equinox show, our fall equinox show. And it got, anybody go listen in the archives, it gets woo-woo. And our solstice show, Glynn, it's really hard when we do these shows at night, because it's, 1 a.m. for you, but we'll figure something out. We did our solstice, we're going to do it again, because it's just, we talk about this. We're like, here's this solstice. We're experiencing this on this side of the earth. The other side of the earth is experiencing something different.
Totally different.
And then we're like, but we created the clock.
Exactly.
I know. And
human beings.
The calendar, I mean, we couldn't even get the days straight. February, it gets shorter. We couldn't even equalize the days.
What happens if you were born on February 29th or 28th? Like you're messed up. You don't get a birthday
really
once a
messed
year, or
up.
once every few years, however that works. Don't ask me about leap year. I mess up all the time.
I know.
But I mean, it's a mess.
Leap year.
So maybe there are ghosts of people of leap year. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get my birthday. So,
I mean, it would be really good if the people who are listening to this could get back to us and tell us their own experiences.
Yeah.
Because, it is something that everybody knows somebody who has experienced something that is unexplainable using
it's like
normal,
our inner
everyday
voice.
stuff.
Is our inner voice from today or from the past going, hey, I'm the older version of you. I've been there, done that. Grow up.
No, but there's that whole thing of deja vu where you're doing something and then you're like, even though you've never been there before, you're like, I've been here before.
Yeah,
I've had that happen. And even as a kid, we moved into this place, a different house, because we moved every year, because that's how my parents rolled. And so I don't think they paid their bills.
I was going to say there must have been something to do with that.
There was something up for sure. And so every year there was a new house, and this one backyard patio. My brother and I were messing around back there with roller skates. And I remember a bulldog on the other side of the fence put his nose through a hole in the fence. And I was like, this has happened before. I know the bulldog, I know the patio, I know that this has happened before, but then it hadn't. So it makes you nuts and that was just as a kid. I was probably 11, 12 years old.
Was the bulldog black?
No, he was
this is
brown
a good
and
segue,
white.
Glenn.
And his name was Buster, and he kept we became great friends because I fed him through the hole in the fence. He became my best buddy. I'd go outside when I was upset and talk to Buster, and put his nose through the fence, not play with his nose, and he would lick my finger, and he was cool.
His name weren't Shuck then, that's the main thing.
His name was Buster.
Let's talk about Shuck, because isn't that the picture for those who are watching? I have a sheepdog. It's a dog. What is that, Glenn? What is that?
Well, Black Shuck is a story of a dog that is seen or said to be seen in North Norfolk, mainly on the coast. And it seems to be a story that is spread around the whole country. Wherever you go all over the country, they seem to have a story to do with a ghostly dog. And it always brings bad news. And they always seem to say that if you see the dog, if you see this big black dog, and there's howling, sort of like a wolf type of dog, then it's bad news, and somebody close is going to die. And it seems to be a regular type of a story. So, you know, it seems that the one in Norfolk is called Shuck, and it's called Black Shuck because it's a big black dog, like a bit like an Alsatian. But there are so many of these big dog stories, you know.
Wow.
And even I seem to remember when I was at school, there was a story of a dog that was a keeper of keys, or I think it had 3 heads.
Oh, master of the house, keeper of the keys.
A bit like the Harry Potter big dog, you know, had 3 heads. You know, so I think there are lots of stories about dogs. And there was another story that I've written about where there was a fiddler. So he was playing his violin and he had a dog with him. And he believed that there was a tunnel, underground tunnel. And he said to the people in the local village, you know, follow me. I'm going to play my fiddle. I'm going to follow this tunnel through and you'll be able to hear where I go. And his violin stopped playing after a while. The dog came running out in a complete and utter mess. And then there was a massive problem and the tunnel filled in. But again, when there was an excavation done in the area, they found 2 skeletons of a man and a dog. So, you know, what is that all about? Is it true? You know, who knows? You know,
that's something like, you know, they've got the chupacabra, which they don't know if it's really, you know, there's that, that's okay. I'm sorry, but you know, but there's the dog thing. I think what it is it's like a form of trickery because dog is a man's best friend and always has been through years, you know? So it's like, you go to trust the dog and the dog turns around and decides to be Cujo, you know?
A werewolf. What about
I wish they never made the Cujo movie because listen, Rottweilers are actually nice dogs. You know, if they're, you know, raised well and, you know, but same as pit bulls are nice too if you don't try and make them fight. So I wonder about that, if it's the ultimate of trickery that kind of led those stories, you know.
What about the werewolf?
Or rabid, could be rabid dogs.
What about the werewolf?
The werewolf, see, that is a dog.
Yeah, see, it's a dog.
Yeah, but you see, we don't actually have that to do with ghost stories. I think the werewolf is more of a cinematic story.
Yeah, it's a Hollywood thing.
And they come from London.
Well, yeah, but again, like I put in my story, it seems that all these ghost stories have misty graveyards and things like that.
Yeah,
it's all they always have a misty graveyard that's all overgrown, like the one behind me.
Yeah,
but actually,
where's
graveyards. Sorry,
where's that one?
This one's in Cambridge. It's a cemetery. But every graveyard I've ever been into, none of them feel ghostly. A graveyard does not feel ghostly to me. Even an overgrown one like this one in Cambridge, it just feels like a graveyard, you know. And
actually, they're very peaceful. I don't feel creeped out, and I don't think there's been one that I feel like there's the one in Asheville, that we. Yeah, but there's a mist there. But I mean,
South Africa, it's got some stuff.
The one that was in Asheville, North Carolina, we went there and it was a gloomy, rainy day. That's where Thomas Wolfe, the author, was buried and O. Henry's buried. And we went to go see these graves because I read this book when we got there, all about this history of this amazing city. And it is apparently built on a vortex. And underneath is all crystal. And it's kind of like all these religions have moved into Asheville over the years. I mean, you got everybody is recognized in this area. It's in the Appalachian Mountains. And now you've got all this mysticism. It's Southern, you know, mystery and all of that. And when we went in that graveyard, I was like, whoa, you had a feeling, but it wasn't anything. I've never really been scared except for when you find snakes and rattlesnakes in graveyards, and you do for some reason, but there's a peace. Yes. And that's something Nancy and I watch. We're going to have this map across of graveyards and cemeteries across America because we've done so many of them. And I always tell people in travel and tourism, people travel to graveyards It is a huge, huge thing. I mean, is that something for you as a family history expert and bringing people?
We're always, that's the whole reason I was in this graveyard, this cemetery, was because the lady who I was taking to Cambridge, I had found where the grave was of her ancestor, and we went to this graveyard and we found, well, because I had the plan of the graveyard or the cemetery, we were able to pinpoint the grave and we were able to see it. I mean, if I hadn't found the information beforehand, there is no way we would have found it, because that was all overgrown with brambles and everything. And even the tour that I did last week, we went to this church. Funnily enough, this was a man who had been over 4 years ago with me, and he'd brought his wife and daughter with him the first time. This time he came over with his son, who the first time round wasn't available. So he came over with his son, and we went back to some of the same churches to show the son the connections, you know, and farms and things. And in this particular churchyard, we hadn't been able to locate any tombstones. But this year, when we went back, the graveyard had been tidied up, and we found 2 massive memorials. Wow. Really fantastic big memorials of the family. So that was fantastic. Oh, wow. But the thing is, I was saying to the son, I think he was 31, he said, I said, this is what it's all about for me. And I'm only speaking for myself. When I can stand beside one of my ancestors, I then have a total connection with that person, because I know that that person is there. That person is laying in the ground in front of me. And I know, I mean, this particular man who we were standing beside had died in 1856. So we both know that, in fact, he was born in 1780. He died in 1856, and his wife was in the grave as well. So we both stood there, and we both knew that this bloke and his wife were both lying in the ground in front of us. And the young man who I was showing this grave to, although he lives in Canada at the moment, his DNA is in the ground in front of him. His
That's
DNA,
wild, isn't it?
his DNA is sitting in the ground beneath his feet, because that is where his direct blood ancestor is.
It's wild, isn't it? It is wild, you know, when you think about also, that. Yeah.
If you think about it, at the time that this man was put in the ground, all of his living relations would have been standing around the grave at that time. You know, so this young man really had a connection with his family.
Experience. Wow. That's really huge. It's huge. It's emotional. And like, we talk about this too. It's what's weird. Like, some of the places Nancy and I travel to, it just happens that we end up there.
Yeah.
We didn't plan it. It just happens.
It's called getting lost.
Was one of them. No, but it just happens. And we end up keep going back. And then as we start researching our family history, find out we have family there.
Yeah.
It isn't, it's so, and even some of the readership levels of our magazines and audience were going, why is so many from Pennsylvania? We started doing more family research. We have like a whole colony of us out there.
There's a whole bunch of us out there.
So we're like,
that we're related to. We didn't know
that our bodies literally go towards these places.
We're like homing pigeons.
So I just, when we talk about all this spirituality and, you know, not to get woo-woo and weird, I just think, hey man, the sky's the limit, you know, and maybe the universe, maybe we should stop with the sky thing and just go the universe. There is no limit. It's only what we limit ourselves in belief. And if your body's feeling it and these things happen, soak it up. And I think there is something so, like, when you go in a you know, a graveyard, it's a resting place. And it is, there's something, I don't know how it is, but you were just talking about the graveyard not being able to see things with the brambles and everything. Our country, we do have a problem in regards to taking care of our graveyards. A lot of our master gardening communities are going in and doing cleanups, and it's become very much a big nonprofit charity thing to take care of these special places. And so we've kind of, as our tour, have decided that graveyards are a park. There's trees, often gardens, there's birds, it's resting. So we need to we need
and
to,
it's calm. And
we
then
need to,
you
we
read the
need to preserve these
headstones.
places.
Yeah,
Yes,
we do. And you read when you start reading the
if you have
headstones, you
their
start,
names on them,
yeah, sometimes it's just a stone and the rest
don't
is
know.
worn off. But when you start reading the headstones, you start recognizing names from history.
Yeah, but also
and following back.
They then come to be real people.
Yeah.
Because so many times a tombstone will not just say, you know, Fred Bloggs 1820 to 1860.
Mhm.
You know, it will tell you that he was a carpenter, or he did this, or he fought in this war, or he did this, you know. So people actually then become real people.
Yeah.
And also for people who are related to those who are buried there, it is a real tangible connection, because you know that your ancestor is actually there. You know, it's not like going to his house, you know that he lived there, but when you're standing beside his grave, you know that he is actually there.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's wild.
I think that is a real...
You're making me rethink cremation now, because now I'm wondering, because well, it's still there, right? It's still there.
Oh yeah, your spirit is still there and whatever. But what I'm saying is that what I want to get over to people is that graveyards are not spooky. Graveyards are places of pure serenity,
Right.
of peace, of a spiritual feeling of rightness with the world. To me, and I'm only talking about me. You know,
I agree with you though.
I just feel that if I go to a cemetery and I just connect with some of the people who are lying in the ground there, I just feel at peace and just, I don't know, just relaxed.
Well, because everybody in there is at peace.
Well, exactly. And they're not spooky. You know, that's what I'm saying. I've never heard of a ghost story that actually involves a cemetery.
Well, that's actually interesting. Yeah.
Most ghosts are in pubs, old halls.
Yes.
You know?
What's about the lovers? The lover. There's a one like, okay, so you know the song, The Long Black Coat, she walks the hills in a long black dress, long black veil. That's it. The long black veil. Nobody knows, no one sees. She walks the hills. So it's like that lost lover, and you know, obviously they were having an affair.
She's not at rest yet.
She's not at rest because one is gone and she was naughty, and she, you know, that whole lot, that I think lovelorn and loss is such a big story as when we talk about all of this. And you had a lady in there that kind of walks around, you know.
Yeah, and she threw herself off the tower of Oxborough Hall. So they say, you know. But who knows? Who knows why people, you know, do these things?
See, bridges are a thing.
Yeah.
Every time we go over bridges, I wonder if my fear of bridges is just feeling all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That there's that feeling of, that's a feeling, and I get like in a total anxiety, freak out, like vertigo, weird thing about bridges. And I wonder if like my past life, I did it or something. I don't know. Because even the like high mountain passes and whatever, I have to play Bob Marley and like Bob Dylan or something to keep my mind going. It's got to be the Bobs, you know.
Well, is there a bridge? Is there even a bridge that has never had somebody jump off it?
I don't think so.
Not the old ones. I mean, the old bridges are always going to be somewhere that people would, if they're high enough, obviously.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of our bridges, if you jumped off them, you'd just land in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it, exactly.
10 feet below, and you have a broken ankle, but that's it.
That might be about as far as you get.
Well, back east, there's a lot of covered bridges back east in this side of the country where we're at, and it's really cool. In the Midwest, have these covered bridges, and I think it's because the ice gathers, and you need to have that part of it, and they're really cool. I mean, it's just, they're so beautiful. Do you have those in England? I kind of remember
we don't have covered bridges. Funnily enough, when we were in Canada, we went off road because we said, you know, I always said I'd love to go through a covered bridge, and we went off road, and we went down a little road and went over this covered bridge, and it was just totally amazing. But you see, we don't have the winters that they have in Canada, so we don't need covered bridges. You know.
Yeah. Funny,
It's just
huh?
not necessary.
Speaking of that,
Yeah.
how is your weather? Because I know you had a hot summer. How's it feeling now in fall?
It's
Autumn.
lovely. Yeah, our grass is as green as green. Our trees are now beginning to turn. So, you know, things are back to normal. Nature always recovers. It always gets back to
Nature
normal.
has that. She knows what she's doing.
Our,
Yeah.
our lawn was like walking across bits of concrete. It
Oh.
really was. And it was completely dead. Our lawn was as dead as a dodo. And now it is green as grass, as they say.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's
Wow.
amazing. It's weird. In here in North Carolina, we got the end of that hurricane come through here. And as a cyclone and tornadoes and all this drama came through, but we're fine and some trees are down, but and branches and everything. And then all of a sudden autumn, I won't say fall. I know it's like fall into England. No, I remember that title of your fall article, but it's fall. It's autumn here, and apparently we're going to freeze. By the time this airs, we're going to be frozen. So we'll find out. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the weather here, but hurricanes apparently create cold temperatures. I don't know, but we may have to come to England since it's so cost effective to go now. We may need to get our butts over.
No, this is like just one of those spots, microclimate, that seems to change every 2 or 3 days. It goes totally opposite.
But
you know, it is in the middle of autumn and leaves are falling.
Beautiful, actually. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes there'll be like a gentle breeze and some yellow, leaves will fall. And then other times here comes a big gust and you think, oh, here goes another tree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a lovely time of year. I mean, I could show you my back garden. Do you want me to show you about my back garden?
Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Everybody, we're going to see Glynn's garden.
You're going to see my back garden.
Oh, that's awesome.
There we go. Okay, I'm going to pause this so we can do it. So we're back with Glynn's garden, and it is green, and it's quite a lovely garden. Glynn, you've got a nice sitting area, and what's that? Is that a bird? Nancy and I both want to know what that is.
That's a concrete pheasant.
Oh, he's cute.
Okay, well, we got the pheasant. Cool. There we go.
Cool.
Well, thank you, Glynn, for showing us that and your house. There's your tour guide.
You've got a guided tour of my house.
There it is. We love it. No, that's awesome. And everyone, again, norfolk-tours.co.uk is where you can find Glynn. As we were saying, I mean, it's a good time to go. And I think, who knows, if we want to get out of the big cold Midwest winter, maybe go to England. It might be the way to go.
Really.
And I've heard with the temperature changes in England now has wineries coming up.
Yes, we do.
You guys are getting in the winemaking industry now.
Yeah.
So.
There are wineries in Norfolk, and there are lots of breweries. And I can take you on a brewery tour if you like, and taste loads of different beers. We've even got a whiskey distillery in Norfolk as well. So if you want to taste English whiskey, you can even taste English whiskey.
Wow, who knew? All right.
There are lots of things to choose from if you like a little little drinky poo.
A little libation, a little drinky poo. I haven't heard that. And listen, Dennis a dodo. That is funny. That is the funniest thing I've heard all day. I'm going to be walking around saying that now.
I'd like a drinky poo right now.
Oh, well, just call Nancy anytime. There it is. Well, Glynn, thank you again, everyone. Glynn is on the show every fourth Saturday. We have a good time with Glynn, and we look forward to next time. And so we'll have to figure something out for our solstice show with you. Maybe we'll move the time of the solstice, Glynn.
Well, why not? Time is all man-made, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
I think crazy. You need to be on the show with all our other guests that get into all of that. And we just talk about basically, like we said, there's no limit. Like, really, if you feel something and it feels real, then it is. Who cares?
Exactly.
Like where we are now, the cats got up at 6:30 every morning until the weather changed. Now they're 10 minutes late. But I've been schooled that I have to feed them at 6:30 in the morning, but they're not up yet. So I get up and I look around and I'm like, okay, I'm going back to bed. And then
I want to know why the cats are getting me up at 5 then.
I don't know, but then they get me up 10 minutes later when I'm just about to fall back to sleep. I'm like, you know what? Can't I just put your food out? No,
That's called
Hey.
cats.
they're cool, but they're more in tune with the weather
Yeah.
and the
Cats
change
are
of
in tune.
season.
Cats are in tune with what they want to be in tune with. That's
Oh,
the thing with cats.
Oh, especially
Mm.
these.
Yeah.
There's one cat here that.
All
oh
right,
my,
all right,
he's a
everyone.
ghost.
Again, keep up with Glynn at norfolk-tours.co.uk. Of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thanks, Glynn.